Yo, what's good with everybody? Welcome back to the Gifted Hoops podcast. We back, we staying consistent, and I'm joined here today by my Houston Rockets people, my guys. What's up with Brad and Will from the Brad and Will podcast? Make sure to tap in. All of their links and all that will be in the description box below. How y'all feeling?
We good, man. Good day so far. Excited to talk some hoops.
We good. I mean, I think me and you still got beef gifted because you cheated in the little Q&A they had us in, but other than that, I'm doing good, man.
Okay, I just want to say for the listeners who don't know what he's talking about, there was a huge community night that we threw. I answer questions, you know what I'm saying? Will happen to answer the questions incorrectly. Listen, it was not rigged because we lost. We did not win the whole thing, okay? I personally feel like it was an honest band for band. You just happen to narrowly lose.
Do you know before it was the Knicks finals? Before the Knicks finals, what year did the Rockets make the finals?
Me?
No, I'm asking Brad. He a Rockets fan.
Okay.
Did the Rockets make the finals before the Knicks?
Yes, I think that was
85, 86.
Oh, all right. Well, shout out you, Brad. One more question. No. I'm glad that you got that. And then the next question I'm gonna ask you is who was it? They said somebody elbowed somebody. It was in that Lakers Rocket series in 2009. I forgot who they said elbowed somebody, but do you know what I'm talking
about? Ron Artest.
Was it Ron Artest?
He the only crazy person on that team.
I don't know. But do you know who did he elbow?
Who did Ron Artest elbow?
I don't even know it was Ron Artest. I forgot who it was, honestly.
Hey, I forgot too.
That's a good question. I'm not gonna
but you probably don't know the answer to that question, right?
That's a good Rockets trivia question.
That was considered an easy question, and I'll let Git take his podcast back. But do you know what? Do you know the 2017 Warriors? What was their postseason record?
This is for me.
Yeah. Do you know that?
2016,
2017. So the first year they had KD.
Shit, they only lost. They swept the Cavs in the finals. They lost like 4 games, huh? 3 to the Rockets and 1 outside of that.
You're thinking of the next year. Think the year before that.
The year before that. Were they like what? 16-1? I don't know.
There you go. So, but you see how that's a pretty easy.
You would have got it wrong though. He would have got it wrong. He
was thinking of the wrong year. He was thinking, but you see how he got it right though, Brad. Those were considered the same level questions. You see how that's pretty easy compared to 2009 elbowing people. Like, bro, what are you talking about?
If I had to guess, it would be Ron Artest elbowing Kobe. That would be my guess.
Yeah, Brad, as you can see, Will is definitely taking that to heart. And I respect it, you know what I'm saying? It was good competition and whatnot. It was very, very close. We just happened to edge him out a little bit. We did not win all the way. So really, it don't matter. But I will say for the next overall event that we throw is going to probably be more debate style to where it's not about trivia. It's about who knows ball and who can articulate that. So if you want to get another band for band going sometime in the future, we can run that. Getting back to the podcast, I want to say it's been about a year since we last had a conversation about the Houston Rockets. Again, going into last year, the expectations for this Rocket team varied for a lot of people. You guys really believe that this team had the potential to make a playoff run. The biggest thing that we talked about, though, was mainly this team being able to rebuild and have a clear direction in terms of a better coaching staff and a better environment towards winning basketball games. In my opinion, I think the Rockets were absolutely able to achieve that last season. But as you two who watch way more games than I did last year, what were your thoughts and expectations, and did that Rockets team last year meet them?
I'll start off and I'll pass it off to Will. I thought, the goal was play-in for this Houston Rockets team. And they won 41 games. They didn't make the play-in, but if you would have told me the Rockets were winning 41 games to start the season, I mean, look, that's you would pretty much guarantee that being a play-in team. Like, the Rockets were the first team to ever win 41 games and not even get a top 10 seed in NBA history. That just shows you how stacked the Western Conference was. It's a tough conference. It's going to get even tougher next year, which I'm sure we'll talk about later on. But yeah, they didn't get the play-in goal, but you cannot be mad about 41 wins, improving by 19 wins from the year prior. I can't be upset about them missing the play-in. They played 500 basketball after playing like the worst team in the NBA the past 3 seasons. So, yeah, I'm content, and they have a good direction this upcoming season to do a lot better.
I'll add to that and say that we won 41 games, and that was with probably I'm not gonna say the best guard, but probably who would have been the most consistent guard, and for sure the 6th man got kicked off the team before the season started. Tari Eason missed 60 games. I think he played like 20, 22 games, somewhere in that ballpark. So he missed like pretty much the entire season. There wasn't a backup center on the roster, and that was a big issue because Şengün got hurt the last 20 games of the season. And then Jalen Green was also like really, really bad for 3/4 of the season. So we were able to win 41 games with all of those circumstances not going in our favor. And so for me, it's like, I mean, no, I think anyone who looks at our season is anything but like in a major success, I think is wrong. I think they're looking at it through the wrong lens, because like Brad touched on, like if we go back to where we were recording this podcast last year and said the Rockets were going to win 41 games, everyone would say that's a successful season, and we would probably assume that's good enough to be the 10th seed. And so it just so happened that this is the year where it took, I think it was 46 wins to be the 10th seed, which is crazy.
Right.
But we, like I said, we would have won more if we didn't miss, you know what I'm saying, all the things that I just touched on. So no, I look at it, it's a successful season for sure.
That's also with, Jalen Green not playing really good basketball. Will laid it out. He really only played 2.5 good months of basketball throughout the course of the season. So if he's more consistent, they win a lot more games. Again, Jock Landale was unplayable for the most part of the season, as Will mentioned. There's a lot of things that happened. Tari Eason missed 75% of the season. So yeah, anytime, Will made a good point, and I'll end on this note. If I came on this podcast last year and said, yeah, the Rockets winning 41 games, I probably would have got a chuckle out of you. You probably would have been laughing. People in the comments probably would have been calling us delusional. So they had a good season.
Yeah, man, I got to be real. 41 games for a young Rockets team is very impressive, but it's not just the number. It's what I vividly remember in the season. The start for the Houston Rockets, where they were establishing their identity, like they look like a better oiled machine in terms of what we want to do on a night-to-night basis. And defensively, they were getting after it. I remember early on, it was Orlando and also the Rockets, with also the Wolves being the best defensive teams in the league. And that's how you guys won games. Even if the offense didn't look pretty with Jalen Green not really playing well, the defense is what has you in a lot of these games. And the bigger thing to me is Tari Eason was an important player, right? Like he was a player that we spent a lot of time on last year, saying he can be a very big piece on his team, and he missed the majority of the season. So by default, getting him back at the very least should add a lot of value. But I was very impressed with the motor and the consistency of this team throughout the season. The injuries, I think, really impacted a lot, but they were in the play-in hunt literally to like the last couple of games. If you don't lose that Dallas game, you're really putting the pressure on my team, the Warriors. Like that's what it was. So I do feel like the Rockets as a team were able.
You remember that game, Brad?
That Mavs game?
I was saying Barry sold it.
Y'all should have won that game. Y'all should have won that game. Yeah.
No, that game was cooked.
Yeah, Barry sold that one by himself, man.
Luka had 47 through 3 quarters. My family wanted to leave. My family wanted to leave that game.
And y'all still almost beat them. Like that wide open 3 to send it to yeah, no.
Bro, I think Dante Exum hit a 3 to send it to OT.
Oh, we're talking about
Oh,
we're talking about different games.
Bro, and I want to say he made that 3 in transition, because I think Barry missed the free throw. Like I remember he was the one who was supposed to close out on the shooter, and he didn't do it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I was so pissed when we lost that game.
I remember that game vividly because I gotta be honest, I was hate watching at that point, because it's like it's Rockets and Warriors, and it's like if they win this game, we gotta win our games, and we both had like pretty hard games. So it's like if they lose this game, they might be out. And that was the game that mattered the most at the end. But you were in position to do that, right? Like, this is something to me that speaks to where this team could be going this season. I just was very impressed with the overall motor and the accountability. And I feel like that goes back to your new head coach, Ime. What do you guys think about his first season fully acclimated underneath this team? Were you impressed with him as a coach? Were there areas where he didn't really perform like you wanted to? How was his first year to you? And do you think he did a good job of establishing a winning basketball environment in his first year?
I'll say this. The Rockets, again, were the laughing stock of the NBA. People said they were playing AAU basketball. And it goes on and on. Ime came in and got some vets in there too. And he really turned it around, turned the identity around. As you mentioned, they were playing like a top 3 defense at times from a team that was bottom, 3 in defense the 3 years prior. So he changed the identity. He got them a lot tougher across the course of the season. He pretty much set on air after the Lakers game. They were getting bitched around. Then after that, they came out and got like 6-7 fights probably throughout the course of the season. Again, a young team, people trying to push him around. And Ime was like, bro, y'all can't let that fly. So not only are they playing better defense, they're playing a lot tougher. They were playing a different brand of basketball, changing literally the entire identity of the team. So I think Ime did an amazing job. Coaching staff did a great job. Some things he could have improved on. I won't even say it, but I mean, like, Aaron Holiday was playing a ton of minutes. He was just trying to play vets because that's who he trusted at times. So Aaron Holiday had to play out of his role at times just because, certain players weren't ready. But with a more complete roster, Will and I have touched on it. Yeah, I know. Will and I have touched on it. Now that we have, Amin Thompson ready, you got Cam Whitmore playing the entire season. You got Reed Shepherd now as well. Those rotations are going to look a lot better. So, yeah, Ime did an amazing job. I don't think he could have did a better job, honestly.
Yeah, no, I wholeheartedly agree. I think that just the level, like the brand of basketball that we played and the way we approached the game, I think that was 100% because of who our head coach was. I don't think that I'm not saying that like I want to see guys fighting, but coming from what we're used to watching, where we literally have watched guys refuse to check in. We had a guy go home at halftime. We've had guys pout on the court, mope, head down, not like just look like they don't even want to be there. We had guys refuse to shoot. It was bad. And so to go from having guys who like almost could care less about being on the court to like, now I care so much, like I'm gonna fight now. Like I'm gonna get into an altercation with somebody now because I want to win this game that bad, and like I'm not rocking with how you treating us, right? Like so I'm not saying I condone the fighting, but I love that intensity. I loved seeing like having a team that actually cared for the first time in like 3 years, right? Like they wanted to be there. They cared about winning. They didn't let nobody push them around, and I think that all comes back from the foundation that Ime Udoka laid for them. I don't think no other coach would have been able to do that. I think that the way that we went from a team that guys could go out there and not try on defense and not that was what used to kill me was watching our team like not get back in transition all the time. Like if you turn the ball over, that's cool, just get back. You know what I'm saying? Or if you miss a shot, just get back. You don't gotta power, complain to the right, just get back. And we would give up. I believe we were the worst team in the NBA in transition defense, not last season, but the season before that, before Ime was here. So just to go from that to like, if that's how last season, if you were the type of guy who didn't get back in transition, Ime was like, all right, well, you can come sit down. Like it don't matter. You're not going to play. And that's what Brad was talking about with Aaron Holiday. Aaron Holiday was not supposed to play half as many minutes as he did. Like when we talked about the Rockets last year, I don't think anyone had Aaron Holiday as like playing a key rotation piece at all. And he was at times he closed a couple. I'm sorry, what go ahead, Brad?
Yeah, he played 78 games.
Yeah, and he closed
78 that's a lot.
He closed like 20 of them. Like it probably maybe more than that. I'm not sure, but there was a couple of the games where he was in the final rotations, the final spot on the court, and that was because like, look, man, if you can't get your stuff together, we have somebody else who will, and you will watch from the bench, and that guy will take your spot. And we didn't have that. That was something we didn't have for the last 3 seasons. So just like all of that, and you know what Brad was touching on, like I said, I don't think no one else could have really done that for this team. So I loved it.
Yeah, I like have to highlight this, right? I did my research here. In 2022-23, right? Your points per possession that you gave up on defense, right? It ranked 29th in the league at 119.7. Points per possession for the 23-24 season, 112.9, 7th in the league. And I feel like the defensive intensity was really where you had your hat on. I feel like the biggest difference between last year and this year is you had a coach that, sure, right, had his flaws where he played a lot of vets, but he was not willing to pivot from his principles in terms of, if we're going to win games, it has to be on defense. Guys have to buy in, right? And through flaws offensively, all this and all that, at least those are areas where you have talented offensive players who can figure those things out. But to have a defensive scheme and system, that is a big part of why you guys had such a big leap to the season. I got to give a ton of credit to Dylan Brooks as well. I feel like his shot diet was much improved from other campaigns beforehand, and he provided a big boost to this team offensively in a different type of way. So I got to give that a lot of proper credit, and Ime has to be at the top of that for sure.
I want to add one thing to what you were saying too. We did that with Alperen Şengün as our starting center, which I think he's made tremendous improvements defensively. But a lot of people, even to this very moment, still believe he's a defensive liability, right? So, and obviously, like defense is one of the areas where he's even as good as he was last season. He's still have to like work on that, right? So we did that with not like, there wasn't like a Rudy Gobert back there anchoring the defense. Like we did that with Alperen Şengün at the 5. Jalen Green, obviously, I think improved a lot, but same thing. That's another area where Jalen Green has to improve upon. Tari Eason, who I could very well make the argument is the best defender on the team, didn't play. And then I think that if Tari is not the best defender, I think the guy who is the best defender is Amin Thompson. And he missed, I believe, the first month and a half of the season. And then it took him a minute to kind of get in the flow. Mm-hmm. But once he got into the flow of things, like that's what he became. But the point I'm making is that it took him a minute to get there. And so we were able to maintain this level of defensive play. It wasn't like we just went out there and got like the elite of elite defenders at every position. And that's what made the turnaround. Like it took a complete buy-in, 1 through 5, yes. 1 through 15. Like everybody had to contribute. We were not getting carried by like 1 or 2 people who were just uplifting the defense. So I want to put that out there.
Yeah, and I think it's a great point. I do feel like the most important piece here for this Rockets team is, I guess, establishing what the core is going to look like. And I do got to ask, just like Jalen Green was one of the most polarizing players for me last year, because I'm watching him. He had so many games where he just was not offensively consistent. His defense also looked off in spots. And then literally post All-Star break, he just turns a completely different corner where for a month plus, he's shooting like 45% from 3 on high volume, high attempts. He's getting to the paint. He's being efficient. You know, a lot of people believe that stretch is a fake stretch. As Rockets fans, do you think that Jalen Green can be somewhere in the middle between how he started and how he ended off his season? Or do you think he's more so not going to be as reliable moving forward for this Rockets core?
I'll be completely honest. My answer is I don't know.
That's what I was gonna say. I don't know. That's what I was gonna say.
I'm hoping. I'm praying we get that Jalen Green that we saw in March, but I mean, it was a low sample. It was a great month. Again, they were 12-1 that month. He averaged 27.7 points per game that month. I saw that recently. That's the only reason I knew that specific number.
Okay.
True shooting percentage as well. Like he was cooking. He was hitting no look threes. He had like 5 no look threes. And he was hitting all around basketball. Like I mean, that's what you want to see out of the kid. You know, it was his 3rd year, but now going into year 4, it's got to be from the jump. Ime was like, yeah, it was cute, but I need you to do this from the start of the season. So that's what I need to see.
Like, I wish you would have did it sooner. I think that's what he said.
Yeah, he said something like that.
Okay.
Yeah, to your question, it's really unanswerable because in that April, he was literally awful in that April. So, I mean, it's like, it's pick and choose. The talent is there. I think he has all the talent in the world. We'll see if he puts it together for a consistent stretch. I really couldn't tell you.
I don't. Yeah, I was gonna say I don't know. I wouldn't bet money on it, but not because I don't believe in Jalen. Just more, I don't know. Like it's been, what 3 seasons? Well, going into it's been 3 seasons going into 4.
Yeah,
and I mean when it was bad, like I have the exact month by month breakdown, which I'm not going to share. But it's very, very bad.
You don't want to share it? Okay.
Yeah, when it was bad, it was bad, like really, really bad. So
he posted that month breakdown. In the
oh, I would never post it. No, that's gonna stay in the.
Yeah, it was bad.
It's gonna stay on my phone. But I have the month by month points and true shooting. It's nasty.
I struggle a little bit.
So I don't know. Like, the answer to, I don't know. I think he can. I think he's capable. But whether he does it or not, that's up to him. I don't know. But if he does, I mean, I've been saying it all like, the whole summer. If he does it, we're winning 50 games. I'm saying that right now. Winning 50. If Jalen takes that,
I agree. I agree. Yeah, no bias. That's a 51 team. No bias.
I don't think it's biased because if he plays like that, where he's averaging 25 plus points per game, where he's being one of the most athletic downhill guys in the league, but is also creating on-ball splits with Şengün, that has your offense at another level with the defensive intensity.
And not to cut you off, but like that was the biggest, outside of like all the injuries and whatnot, the reason why we were not able to get over, like win more games than what we did, even though we won an impressive amount, was because we were a top 10 defense, but I want to say we were a bottom 10 offense. I'm not 100% sure.
They were 21st.
Yeah, so we were not offensively. That was our struggle, and the biggest reason we struggled, it was obviously spacing, but we needed someone to be a high volume just creator in general. Like for as good as Fred VanVleet is, that's not his bag. He can't do that. We need someone to be able to, like the idea of Jalen Green, the Jalen Green we saw in March. If we had that version, that is the exact player this roster was missing the entire season. Like I said, he just waited till the very last second to like show it. But if we had that version of him, or not even that version, because that version of him was like that, it was 27.7 points per game on 61 true shooting, which is
ridiculous.
Crazy.
Yeah.
But so not saying he got to do that, but just like an approximation of that the whole season. Bro, that was the biggest thing our offense was needing. We would have been a much better offense because of that. And then you would have been, okay, so we have a top 10 defense and maybe like a middle of the pack offense. And I think that's enough to catapult us to at least probably 3-4 more wins right there. Then you bring back Tari. Then you add in Reed Shepherd. You have Steven Adams now. So there's no longer a hole at the backup center. You have everybody who was already on the roster last year. Hopefully he's coming back, getting better at that. Like I said, y'all can call me crazy. 49-50 wins if that's what happens.
And Will, let me add one more thing for you. Year 2, I thought you were going to say it. Surprised you didn't. Year 2 of Amin Thompson. People don't know.
Year 2 Amin. Yeah, true.
So yeah, that's going to be a huge difference maker. So yeah.
Yeah, I bring up Jalen Green because to me, I think he's the biggest X factor on this team because I look at it as Şengün was such a good offensive player, but if Jalen Green can be the combo guard to fit with his playmaking and be the creator alongside him, I think he takes pressure off of them offensively, and it just raises the floor offensively for this team a lot more, right? As you said, you were the 7th team in points per possession defensively. You were the 20th team in points per possession offensively. That's such like a big, gap. And the crazy part is you were literally in a dogfight in the play-in run at the end of the season. And this is without Tari, which I keep saying Tari's a very good basketball player. Defensively, I might agree. He probably is the best defender on this basketball team. So not having him for all these games with Amin, who, by the way, I love that Brad brought up Amin because Amin's creation ability at the end of the season, the way he was getting downhill, and also his defense, how scary he looks as a rebound, as a triple-double threat, right? You had that guy coming off of the bench for the majority of the year, and then once he reached that starter lineup with Jalen Green, the things that they were doing to teams at the end of the season, it looked like a real dogfight for them to actually make the play-in over the Warriors. I remember watching the games like, this is kind of insane what I'm looking at. So I think Jalen Green is like the floor for this team, because if he's able to be that level of himself with Tari back, I think this is a completely different Rockets team that has a legitimate chance to be somewhere in the Western Conference. I do believe that.
I'll throw in, I think, and I don't know if this is a hot take, I think Tari, you could argue Tari's a top 5 player on the roster. I think he's better than Dylan. I think he's better than Jabari. I'd obviously have Fred, Şengün. I don't like ranking Jalen because you don't know what version.
you don't know, right? Yeah.
So I'm not gonna rank Jalen. I think Amin is better. And after Amin, I think it might be. I mean, Brad, what you think? I think it might be Tari. I like Tari more than Dylan. I guess the controversial one, I like him more than Jabari, but I do. I think he's better than Bari.
I'll say this. I won't go off of player who's better. I mean, it could be the same conversation, but impact wise, it was a real conversation in that first stretch of the season when he was a top 3 impact player on the team.
We were above.
He came in the game and made that. Came in the game, made that much of a difference. Like he does everything. He's upper 90th percentile in rebounding, offensively, defensively, steals. Like he's everywhere on the court. I mean, yeah, it's gonna really show at the beginning of the season when he's back on the court.
I think he matters a lot to this Rockets team because, again, it's not just like the one player thing. It's the fact that like the lineups look drastically different because now it's like, okay, we have Tari, we have Van Fleet, who's also a good guard overall defender, right? And then you have Jabari as your foreman who can also give you some, shots there, right? Like the team just structurally makes a lot more sense with him. And then if Amin Thompson can retain whatever he was doing defensively, like now it's like this team is a much more scary defense. And for him to miss that much time and their top 10 in points per possession as a young team, by the way, it speaks volumes to how their ceiling defensively could be. So I'm with you there. I just find it so crazy because I remember the talking points during the season, right? At the beginning of the season, people were like, Tari Eason is in the core before Jalen Green. And then Tari goes down. And then at the end of the season, it's like Jalen Green's back in the core. If they both can click and pop in the same season, it really shifts where you are. Like dramatically. My only question for y'all is, do you think Jalen Green at his best can be at his best with Şengün, or do you think that's more so they're better without each other? Because I do feel like those are your two most talented players at their best, I feel like. And if they can play together, kind of does matter.
I'll say this, and a lot of people that didn't watch the Rockets game, it's easy to say, okay, Şengün went out with this injury and the Rockets go on this huge win streak, right? They automatically make the assumption, okay, this is because Şengün is gone. At the end of the All-Star break, Ime Udoka said, I want this team taking way more threes. I want them to push the pace. That was consistent while Şengün was also playing after that All-Star break. So if you look at the pace in those games Şengün played before he got hurt, it's the exact same when Jalen Green went on that run without Şengün. So Jalen Green was playing good with Şengün before Şengün went down with that injury. So they could definitely both be on the court at the same time and still be cooking together. If you look at it, Jalen Green started magically making wide open threes before he was shooting 26.6% on the season on wide open threes. And that's not, I'm not speaking, literally Jesus, like it was 26.6%. And then he started cooking, so it wasn't Şengün, it wasn't the pace. All that stuff was consistent after the All-Star break. It's just, he's got to decide when he wants to be on or not. But Şengün, he's going to be drawing doubles. Jalen, when he's cooking, he's drawing doubles. So they could really play off each other extremely well. They both assisted each other the most amongst any other teammates on the team, if you want to look at it like that too. So they really play off of each other extremely well. That's been consistent since they were drafted together in 2021. So yeah, I mean, that's all I got to say about that. Them two can be really good together.
To add on to what he was saying, I agree 100%. To add on to it, if you go look at just about every game that Jalen has like a big game where he drops 30, 40, whatever, however many points, not in March 2024, go back and rewatch it and look how almost every time Jalen scores, Şengün is involved in some kind of way, whether it's him setting the screen, him giving Jalen the ball, him setting, the flare screen, whatever. But like, I went back and I rewatched a couple of Jalen's like big games from like year 2 and early on in like this season. And you'll like, it's honestly comical how like if you go watch the highlight reel, every play Şengün is in some form or fashion involved. And it's like, that tells me right there that like, no, they can play together. Like, not only can they play together, I think that their games perfectly mesh with each other. And then like the idea, because the biggest like pushback to people who don't think that Jalen and Şengün can coexist, it's because Şengün can't space the floor just yet, which I do think it's a work in progress. I think he's going to be a bit better at that. Give him time. I don't think he's ever going to be like a knockdown shooter, but I think he can get to a point where he's making like one a game on like 3-4 attempts, something like that. So I think he'll get better at that. But my pushback to that is, who do y'all want Jalen Green playing with? Karl Anthony Towns? Like there's only so many centers in the league that can do what you're asking, like what you would be asking Şengün to do. You feel me? Like that's what makes Cat so special, is that he can shoot the ball at that height, at the clip he shoots it at, right? That's what makes Joel Embiid and Jokic special. Like I'm sorry, right. Şengün isn't Jokic or Embiid at 21 years old. But also like the kind of center that you're describing does not hit the market, or else every team would have one of those guys. Like that's the reason why they're so special. So I don't know. My pushback to that is like, unless you're talking about getting one of the best centers in the entire league, I'm not really sure who you think is coming in and spacing the floor at the center spot for Jalen. Which, like I said, if everybody else is shooting, you can afford to have one guy in the dunker spot. So I don't know. To land the plane, I don't think that there's any type of problem between those two guys playing together. Like I think that if they are both playing at their best, I think they mesh perfectly, and I think that makes us a really good team.
Yeah, I think that is perfectly well said. I think that duo, again, I think a lot of this falls on Jalen Green, the player he can be, because I think you can trust Şengün. We saw everything offensively. Like I think those things are real, and he'll get better at those aspects. But Jalen Green needs to be at least like maybe 60 to 70% of what he was in that month for the season. If he can do that, that will shift where this team is. But this does take me to another player that I just have questions about. Will hinted at it earlier, right? He said that Tari Eason might be the best defender on this team. And he also said that Tari Eason is better than Jabari. My questions are kind of on Jabari, right? Like I viewed him as the guy that could be like the captain of the defense at his best. He gives you a bit of flexibility at the 4 spot, but where does he fit in with this team right now?
We'll say this time and time again about Jabari. Really, really bad, rookie year. And then he had a huge hit. What was laughing? He really improved a lot in this second season. Probably one of the better improvements in the entire NBA. He really did. He improved a lot, and he was just 20 the entire season. He just turned 21 in May. So where does he fit in? He's still that 3-and-D guy. The defense still can improve, but he's going to be able to have that switchability at 6'11" with that 7'2" wingspan, along with hitting that 3 ball that the Rockets need. He's taking around 5-ish a game. This year was around 36%. I still expect that to increase. He's only going to get better on defense. Again, people forget how young these kids are, and they only get better. And the work ethic is top notch. So I'm not worried about Jabari Smith Jr. Tari Eason was a better impact player than him last year. Ceiling wise, it's a different conversation. So I'm not necessarily worried about who's better at this point in time. Tari is also the more, the older player at this point in time too. So looking at Jabari, I think he fits in well. The Rockets probably look at him very highly just because of his mold and his player type and his archetype. You don't have a lot of guys who are 6'11" that can guard every position at their best. Right now, he's not guarding ones, but I mean, eventually that's what he should be able to do. So yeah, just a really young player with a lot of potential. Hopefully he gets another leap like he did from year 1 to year 2.
Yeah. I think he plays the same role he played last season. I think he's going to be the starting power forward.
Yeah.
The idea is that hopefully he comes back a bit stronger, a bit quicker. I think those are the 2 biggest things he needs to improve on is not getting, there was a lot of times where like smaller guards would push him off. And so he needs to stop letting that happen. And then, like, I think if he can move his feet a little bit quicker, I think his defense will improve. And then just hopefully he continues. I mean, I looked it up. He shot the 3 ball at, I think, 36%.
Probably 35.9-ish, something like that.
No, it was 36.3% on 5 attempts, which is like, that's okay. That's about the league average. But you want to see him, like the idea for Jabari was that he's going to be an elite defender and an elite shooter. So I do want to see that number get to like the 38, 39% on like similar volume, which I think he can do. So yeah, I don't know. Jabari is another one that's kind of interesting for me. I don't know what to expect, but like Brad touched on, was he 21 all of last year?
He was 20 all of last season.
He was just 20 all of last season.
He just turned 21. Yeah.
Oh, he just turned 21.
Just turned 21 in May.
Wow. Okay.
I mean, so yeah, that goes to show how young he is. I didn't know he did. It turned 21 in May. Wow.
Yeah.
But yeah, so he's really young. So I don't really know like what to expect. But I also think that he was like, I would say he had a good season for the most part, especially when you like factor in the role and expectations for him. And so as long as he just builds upon the season he had last season, I'm never gonna look at Jabari and say you got to average 20 points and you know, be this all-star. Like, no, just be the best version of yourself. And I think that he's en route to doing that. So, I'm fine with where we're at with Jabari. He is like so far down the line of like my question marks and concerns with this roster.
Yeah,
I want to ask these questions because I think the Rockets did something bold that a lot of people are not talking about, and that's like being hesitant about offering the max to Şengün or Jalen Green and kind of making it more of a proven season, which to me puts a lot of pressure on them to kind of figure things out and really makes me question like what's going to happen. Because obviously, right, most teams just max their guys now, right? We saw Barnes, he got max. We saw Tyrese, he got max. We saw Anthony Edwards, he gets max. But the Rockets said, we're going to let you guys kind of walk to restricted free agency or wait until there's a potential extension in season before we make that move. And to me, what that tells me is they're kind of playing it like it's a wait and see game with the core. And to me, some of these players might be more expendable. Like you still have Amen Thompson, you still have Cam Whitmore, who might need, a couple more years of, I would say, development. But it makes me put into question just how much pressure is on them to win more games this year. Because if they're not able to do that and things don't look great, is it crazy to think that in this new era with the brand new CBA, with the first apron and also the second apron, if they're just planning to move off of some of these players?
I'll say this. I think Şengün has a max contract under the table already with his name on it. I don't think I don't think that his money is like an approve it year. The reason why, that's been communicated that they have not extended him is the same reason why the Sixers waited a year to extend Maxey. When you're drafted that low, like Şengün was 6, I think Maxey was like 21, if I'm not mistaken, something like that. Like when you're drafted that low, your cap hold is not that much. And so they want, if they were to extend him, obviously that would change. And so they want to have the most money they can spend next offseason. And to do that, they would need to wait a year to extend Şengün. So that's why he hasn't got it. Jalen is a different case. Jalen's cap hold wouldn't matter because he was the second overall pick. He just didn't do enough to earn his money, which, like I said, I have my month breakdown. I'm not going to be sharing it, but yeah, you don't get that guy a max contract based upon the production that he did, years 1 through 3. And so for him, it is a prove it year. For Jalen, it is a year where he has to go out there and show the team. Because this is how I feel about it. I don't think Jalen Green signs for less than a max. At least I don't think not with the Rockets. I don't think he intends to sign less than a max contract with the Rockets. I think he just watched all of his peers, Scotty, Mobley, Cade, the guys who he was on the same team with, played AAU ball with, Team USA, whatever. And a lot of these guys are also represented by the same agency. I think he's looking at them and he's saying, okay, all these guys who I grew up with, they got a max. I want the same thing too. And I get it, number 2 overall pick, right? Get your bag. So I don't think he's signing for less than that. So I think that's like, for me, it's like he has to play at that level or I don't think he's going to be on the team post trade. Yeah. But I think Şengün's straight. I don't think Şengün's going nowhere. I'll bet whatever amount of money that as soon as extensions are eligible next offseason, he is going to get one.
Yeah, I was going to reiterate what Will said. It's about cap flexibility, remaining that cap flexibility, very similar to the Maxey situation. And then nothing for certain if there is a deal under the table for Şengün, but it's a very good assumption that the Rockets know, yeah, this guy is very deserving of a max contract. He played at that same level, if not better than a lot of those guys in that 2021 draft class. In fact, he's for sure top 3 performance-wise in that class. So, yeah, I think he's going to get paid if he comes out and improves again like he has the past 2 off season. So, yeah, and then Jalen Green, as Will said, I mean, we'll see. We had 2.5 good months. It needs to be more consistent. So, yeah, just keeping that cap flexibility. And you were right. You said it's a prove-it year for a lot of these young guys, and it is. You can't keep 7 young guys on the roster forever. They're going to have to be some consolidation eventually, and that's what this upcoming season is going to be about.
Yeah, I think that's 100% fair. And, it's just so much to look at with this team because I could see a situation where in February or March, we're legitimately talking about Amen Thompson replacing whoever as the starter. Because I think Amen Thompson can be very, 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 very good. And the defensive identity that Ime is attached to, Amen really fit that in his first year. So if he continues to work his way towards that, hopefully his shot, which to me, the biggest barrier for him to enter that starting lineup outside of his, experience and whatnot is the shot making. He's still like a non-spacer. Kinda. If he can figure that out, I think that'll really shift things. But how do you look at Amen Thompson's development fitting in for this season?
I think it fits in perfectly. You just have to, and it's a stacked roster. I don't even know if they'll go 9 or 10 deep, but regardless, he needs 28 minutes at the minimum, 30ish. He's one of those guys, he can make an impact regardless. We saw it last year. They was messing around using him as the roller. Now, you can't do that with Şengün in the lineup, and Şengün is still working on extending that range. And I'm gonna tell you this right now, Amen's not extending that 3 ball anytime soon. I don't think that's coming. When you brought it up, we're gonna have to hope for Şengün to get that 3 ball right, and then you can start using Amen Thompson more as a roller. And even if Şengün's 3 ball isn't there, Amen and Şengün had amazing chemistry throughout the course of the season. I can make a compilation right now and throw it on Twitter of Şengün diamond up Amen Thompson just working in the post or off of backdoor cuts. So it's gonna work. It's gonna work out perfectly fine. He was one of the top defenders in the NBA last season, just off of performance alone, statistics alone. I could pull up the numbers to back up that statement. So he's gonna fit in perfectly fine. And again, I brought up earlier in the podcast, year 2 Amen Thompson, the kid is gonna be special. So I'll let the play speak for itself.
Now, Brad knows that's my favorite player on the team. I can talk about him.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, Will.
When we got the 4th pick in the lottery, he knew what was up.
Nah, I was so happy because I everybody was mad we didn't get Wemby or Scoot. I was like, bro, Amen is gonna be something serious. I just gotta watch out. So I like I said, he's my favorite player on the roster for sure. I can talk about him for 30 straight minutes if you let me. But But what I would say about Amen, I do think that he is the best defender on the team. I think that with respect to Tyrese, and Tyrese is definitely something serious defensively, but I think Amen is better at moving his feet. I think Amen is also a bit more versatile on that end, right? Because I've seen Amen. There was a game that I always point to, if people ask how good Amen is. Go watch. I forgot because we played Phoenix a bunch in February and March. But there's one game in that ballpark we played Phoenix where he guarded Devin Booker, Kevin Durant, and Bol at multiple times throughout the game and did a good job on them. And how many guys in the NBA do you know have the defensive versatility to guard Devin Booker, Kevin Durant, and then block Bol shy at the apex of the jumper? There's not that many guys who can do that. So I think that he's for sure the best defender on the team. I think that the biggest thing that his game needs that we talk about the jumper. Obviously that's something that needs to come along. But I'm someone like Brad. We're 3 seasons away from that being at a point where it's serviceable.
Right.
If ever, it's probably not going to be anytime soon. Which is fine. I'm not mad at that. What he needs to work on, and this is something I think it can happen sooner than that, is the handle. And that's something I've been saying from preseason. His handle, and with respect to him, it got a lot better come into the season. Game 1, it was bro, I knew it was bad. I didn't know it was this bad. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I knew the jumper was going to be a work in progress, but there was like a possession in preseason where he's like standing in the corner, just dribbling the ball, standing straight up and just loses it. I'm like, come on, bro. Like, what's going on? So his handle is like, that's the biggest thing. Cause I think Amin's best skill set, he's obviously an elite defender. He's an elite rebounder. He's a great roller, great cutter, all that good stuff. I think his best attribute is his IQ and his playmaking. And you really can't see that when he's off ball the entire time, right? Like, which like I said, he's good at doing that. I'm not saying he's not good at, he was great at it, but his best attribute is when the ball is in his hands and finding someone. And you can't do that as much as you want to if you can't dribble. And so for me, that's the biggest thing he needs to do is to get his handle back to a point in time where it's, like I said, to his credit, it was a lot better into the season. And I assume that's probably something he's working on right now. But if he can get that handle to a point in time where it's a lot more serviceable, he can get to his spots a bit more, because he's already, has one of the best first steps in the entire league. He's a walk-in paint touch. When he, when his handle is right, he can get to the paint pretty much whenever he wants to. And then he's super gifted at finding, either the roller, the dunker spot. He's able to throw these crazy passes, like cross court.
Great passer.
Passes. Like he has, as a rookie, I don't think there's a single pass Amin Thompson is incapable of throwing. The problem is he can't get to the position where he can throw it because his handle isn't tight enough. And so, yeah, that's the biggest thing I need to see him work on going into year 2. Like I said, I think I'd argue that he is probably, like I said, I don't like ranking Jalen, because Jalen is either the best player on the roster or the worst player on the roster. So not factoring in Jalen, I'd argue Amin is the 3rd best player on the team, behind Fred and Shingo. I'd argue he's number 3. So yeah, that's my spiel on Amin.
Last thing about Amin Thompson, one of the best rebounders in the league at his size. Yeah. As a starter, he averaged 9.9.
Not even this, just period.
Just period. Yeah. You look at the percentiles. It's I think he's 100th percentile at this position in offensive rebounding percentile. Same with defensive percentile. So yeah, just crazy all around talent. But yeah, that's one to add that.
That's why he was a triple-double threat. And again, I know this not only because I had to watch y'all games, but because I literally picked the man up in fantasy and I was seeing what he was doing on a night-to-night basis. That's why, like, the full vision of this team to me makes sense, because if these players hit their, things, right? Having Amin with Jalen Green defensively, if Jalen, like, I'm telling you, if Jalen Green could be that two-way player with the athleticism on this team, with Şengün in space, it just makes a lot of sense if these players can do that. So that's why this year matters so much. But I'm a huge fan of what Amin Thompson can be. But that does beg the question, which might be hard: is Cam Whitmore a rotation player this year? Yeah. Like fully? Yes.
I'll say this. If the Rockets go 10 deep, he definitely is. Even if they go 9 deep to start the season, he's definitely in there. I think him and Reed are both like swing factors if he's going 9 deep towards the end of the season.
Okay.
Because you got to play Steven Adams, I'd assume. Or, they could even cut Steven Adams out the rotation. I don't know, but I wouldn't see it. But yeah, Cam Whitmore is going to be in the rotation. I mean, his potential is sky high amongst a lot of these guys on the roster. But it's just the IQ at times is lackluster. The shot selection can be lackluster. But I think that is fixed on the main roster. Will said it countless times. We're laughing. I know what he's thinking. But it's fixed when he's on a roster where he doesn't have to force up shots. And he can work as a cutter. And he can play off of, guys like Fred VanVleet, Şengün, now Reed Shepherd, who's also a good playmaker. So I think he's a rotational piece. But, if he's struggling, then Reed could take his spot.
If you would have asked me that question a month before Summer League, I probably would have told you for sure. Mm-hmm. But a combination of how good Reed looked in Summer League and how not good Cam looked in Summer League, now I'm like, I think that spot is up for grabs. And I'm not saying that Reed is gonna have the spot off rips or that Cam's not gonna have it, but the level of confidence I had that he was gonna be like the backup 2-3 kind of role. Right. I don't know if I have that level of confidence anymore. And it's because, and to his credit, he improved at it. He's gotten better, but Cam's IQ is just, and I don't hate Cam. Please don't that I hate Cam, but he probably has the worst IQ in the entire NBA. And like I don't hate him. I promise I don't hate Cam, but he probably does. Like I'm
worst.
Name me someone who's worse.
Worst is tough though. Worst
in
the entire league.
I think he had the lowest assist percentage of like all qualified players last year. Like it's Cam Whitmore does some things that you just really just scratch your head. Like why did you think that was the play there? You know what I'm saying? So like, and he does it so much, and it's not just summer league. Mm-hmm. This goes back to Villanova. It goes back to summer league as a rookie. It goes back to preseason. Goes back to the G League. Like we have a lot of film on it. And it's a present. That's why he I don't know if you saw it, he got mad at me one day because I was like, all right, man, like it's a little questionable. So for me, that's why it's hard for me to rank him, because when he's playing, when he's in a refined role where his job is just shoot, cut, play defense, obviously he's great at that. Like I think he's really good. But when he, you know what I'm saying, starts trying to do a little bit more than that, and you know, maybe that's not the role he wants to play, that's when I'm like, I don't know, man. You need to really back in a little bit. So I would say, and I know the type of coach Ime Udoka is. He is like very much the kind of coach that, like, one thing he said from the jump was he was going to increase like secondary assists, ball movement, stuff like that.
Right.
That don't sound like Cam Whitmore. So like that's why I'm like, it wouldn't surprise me if Ime's like, Reed is coming in, moving a rock, playing smart, picking his spots, and Cam is struggling at that. It wouldn't shock me if Reed takes Cam's spot. Then that's where I land my plan.
And I think that's a perfect place, because that was the next thing I was going to get to. I looked at this roster and I asked myself, damn, can Cam really play that many minutes, especially knowing who Reed is? I got to be honest, I was not able to watch Reed's game in college, but I did watch Summer League. And my goodness, like, the Cocaine Curry name was one thing, but sitting here watching him just get to his shots so efficiently, like, I think day one, he's probably the best shooter on this team, which is kind of crazy to say. Like, that's pretty big. Where do you think he fits in terms of like the guard play with the rotations, and like, how will he impact this core in your mind?
Yeah, I think he can come in and be that backup to Fred. Again, really solid playmaker, really good at pushing the pace, especially in transition. And as you mentioned, best shooter on the team. And the Rockets, a team that's been bottom 3, and it's a big reason why I advocated for the Rockets to select Reed Sheppard. The past 3 seasons, they're bottom 10 in the NBA in three-point shooting itself. So that alone is going to get him on the floor. He's another high IQ basketball player. Again, towards the end of Summer League, we saw a lot of those issues emerge when he was getting blitzed like he was a prime Steph Curry. Like, he was getting insane coverage. That's not happening in the NBA. Reed's going to come in. He's going to make a huge impact, play off ball for Şengün, play on ball and make a lot of the right decisions, and defeat a bunch of those athletic guys on the roster. So he's going to fit in well. He could be the 10th guy. Again, to start the season, he might not get the most minutes. We saw the same treatment for Amin Thompson when he first got to the Rockets, along with Cam Whitmore as well, who saw time in the G League. Now, I don't think Reed Sheppard is going to see G League time, but I think Ime is going to ease him into their rotation, and it won't be long until he has a solidified spot, in my personal opinion. By January, at least, I know his spot is solidified. What would you say, Will?
Like I said, I want to throw this in for the Cam stuff. Just once again, it reinforce I don't hate him. He did just turn 20, so like, yeah, it's understandable that someone that young struggles at, you know, the things that he struggled at. But I think a lot of Reed's minutes does come from where him and Cam stack up in training camp. I think that I think Cam should have the advantage. He's the older player. He has a year of experience under his belt. But like I said, I don't really know how that's going to shape up. So I think Reed might be older than him the whole time. That's the crazy part. But yeah,
I mean, so.
I say older is in like he's
more experienced.
Yeah, he has more experience. And
He
might be old. I don't know. Let's see. Let's look at it.
Yes.
He's older. Okay. Well, yeah. What I meant was like Cam has the NBA. Yeah, he actually is older. That's crazy. But he has, Reed, Cam has more experience than Reed does. So I think he should have the advantage in terms of, and I also think that ceilings wise, I think Cam is just the better player, right? At least from what I've seen so far. Maybe we can revisit that competition in a year. But I think Cam has the higher potential. I think Cam has one of the highest potential in the entire team.
Does he though? Does he really have a higher potential to Reed, you think?
I think
Yeah,
I don't know.
I think as prospects, I would rather have not even I would rather have Cam as a prospect, like coming out of college. I would rather have Villanova Cam over Kentucky Reed. But Reed also is looking like he very much might like overshoot his projections.
It's like the shooting. If his shooting is that legitimate with the playmaking and the decision making, yeah.
It's the playmaking that makes me reconsider, because I knew Reed was a talented playmaker, but the volume he's doing it right now, or he did in summer league, was a lot higher than the volume he did it at Kentucky. And so that's where I'm like, all right, well, if he's able to do that consistently, along with what we know about him as a shooter, yeah, he might end up being a lot higher on the ceiling list than what we initially had him at. But I still have to say, to me, it depends how much minutes he gets. It depends on where Cam shakes out. I think starting five is solidified. I don't see that changing. And if it does change, I think Amin is the one who gets bumped into starting five. And I think Amin is for sure one of, if not the first sub off the bench. I think Tari Eason, same thing there. One of, if not the first sub off the bench. And then I think Steven Adams is going to play and be the backup five. So that's 8 guys I just listed right there. I think the 9th spot is either Cam or Reed. I think it should go to if a month before the draft, I would have said Cam. Now I think it's open competition. But yeah, I think Reed's minutes will probably see an increase as the season goes on, not from the jump.
Okay. I brought up Reed because I'm trying to think about every scenario for this Rockets core, right? So, okay, hypothetically, right? Let's say Reed is a great player, right? And he like shoots whatever expectations he had down, and he's like just very, very good, right? My question is, if we're assuming Jalen Green's going to be on this team, if we're assuming Van Fleet is here, like, how does the guard rotation work with Amin, Reed Shepherd? Like, it kind of feels like a congested backcourt, not now at least, but like in the next 2 to 3 years moving forward, where at least one of those guards are going to have to be out the door. If Reed pops, what does that look like to you?
Actually, no. Go ahead, Will.
I was going to say, Fred doesn't really matter in this equation to me, because I think if Fred is still starting after this season, I think something's wrong. I'll put it like that. I think that by next season, either Reed or someone needs to take that spot from, whether it's Reed or Min, someone should be the better guard than. Also, I think he's also going to age not the best. He may not even be here. I don't know. He's an expiring contract after the season, so he doesn't really matter in this equation to me. But I think you can run a lineup that features a starting five that features all 3 of Jalen, Amin, and Reed, because Amin is pretty much a forward anyways. Like he has the guard skills, but he's in the body of a forward. And he has the defensive skills to play forward as well. So I think the question, I guess, from there would be, how much does Jalen improve defensively? Because I'm not sure if you can run Jalen and Reed long term if both of them are like teetering like the neutral line defensively.
I agree,
but I think that at least offensively, I think that can for sure work. Like I said, for me, the question is just more of the defensive side of the ball. But I don't think, like, positionally, I don't think that doesn't work. So yeah, I don't see a log. I think the log jam really comes from like I think the real log jam is what happens with Tari, Bari, and Cam. That's where I need to know, because there's only 2 forward spots, and like Amin can kind of play 1 through 4. Those guys can maybe Cam can play a little bit of 2, but those are like 3s and 4s. And like I said, if Jalen's starting at the 2 and Amin and Reed are starting as well, that's 1 through 3 right there. So what happens with those guys? So that's my real question is the Bari, Tari, and Cam.
Yeah, it's a good question. It's a good question, because ideally you want Amin Thompson to be that point guard, that can handle the rock and do anything. As you said, triple double threat. That's the goal. But it looks like Reed Shepherd could also be that guy. So as Will mentioned, Fred VanVleet is on a team option by the end of the year. I do think the Rockets probably, I mean, the way Ime Udoka plays, man, I think they might mess around and pick him up. But we'll see, based on how this season goes, they could often just say, hey, Reed's taking that step. Hey, Min Thompson has taken that step. Let's go in that direction. But, we'll see as time goes on. I'm not worried about it. Min could as well, start at the 3 spot. That could be a plug and play if not him. As Will mentioned, there's a ton of forwards on the team that could start at the 3. If it's not him, then it could be Tari or it could be Cam. But a lot of different avenues the team could go. And that's what happens when you have a talented young core, 7 guys. So it is difficult. And that's why it comes back to what you mentioned at the beginning of the podcast. It's a prove-it season for a lot of these guys. And it's going to really determine the direction of this franchise going forward because it's really not as easy. It's not easy at all. Like, I really don't know what's going to happen, who's going to get moved. We just have to see, where everybody falls in place. But I'll be interested to see as well. So it is a good question.
Yeah, I thought about this because I think fundamentally what Reed provides is very important because if the playmaking is there, coupled with the shooting, and he's like a knockdown, like hot, heavy volume 3-point guy, I think that will significantly shift how good your offense is. And then immediately I'm thinking about, okay, well, if you have his shooting on the court with Jalen Green's athleticism, with the pressure in the paint Şengün has as a post guy, with Amin Thompson defensive, like there's so many like fun, quick, up and down the court lineups you can run, and there's different styles if his shooting and playmaking is there. And to me, that really begs the question of, well, damn it, if he pops like that, that kind of changes what the real core of the Rockets is. So that's why to me, this is such a big year. Like, I still feel like it's not much pressure to have to be like a top 6 seed. I don't think the Rockets are quite there yet, but I think this is a big player development year where it's like, all right, how serious are we? How good are these guys really going to be on this team? Because you got player options, you got max contracts. There's a lot at stake after this season that will dictate the 2 or 3 years after this to me.
Yeah, I agree. I 100% agree with that.
Yeah, but since we're reaching the end of the podcast, what I want to now ask you guys is, moving forward in the Western Conference, as the Rockets, as a team that's trying to make the plan and obviously make the playoffs, what are the 3 teams you guys feel like are the biggest threats to you guys in the conference in terms of you're in direct competition with these guys to accomplish your goals this season?
This season? 3 teams?
Yeah.
So the goal is playoffs. So I won't even mention like the teams at the top. I mean, I'll say this. OKC, I think they're obviously top 2. Teams like are going to be stamped. Like Minnesota's going to be stamped at the top. A bunch of teams like Denver. That's a good question. I think the Kings are a swing team. They got better with DeMar. I personally don't like the fit. It's a spacing issue in my opinion. I think that's a key factor. How good are the Kings going to be? And a lot of these older teams, your Golden State Warriors, I think they're going to fall. I think they got, I mean, they made some good acquisitions. I will say they made some good acquisitions despite losing Clay. Clay wasn't a bad defender. The shot was off for the most part. I know I don't have to tell you this, but it's a swing. They're a swing team as well. I also think I'll give 2 teams, the LA teams, the Lakers or the Clippers. The Rockets, those are teams the Rockets going to be looking to jump. Clippers obviously lost Paul George. And correct me if I'm wrong, who outside of Derrick Jones, who did they add? I'm not going to talk about number 3.
Yeah, they added number 3.
Yeah.
I was gonna say they added yeah.
Those 2 guys. They
added
Plumlee.
It was somebody else they added, right?
They lost Plumlee. Who did they back up center?
Derrick Jones, KPJ. Who else did they add? Let me see real quick.
The Rockets, they're gonna be better.
I don't believe in the Clippers at all this year.
Yeah, so that's my 3. I'll take out the Lakers. I'll go Clippers, Kings, and your Golden State Warriors. Those are 3 teams the Rockets need to beat up.
I'll throw in just the Pelicans.
That's a good one.
Yeah,
Pelicans are a big swing team.
They still haven't got Brandon Ingram, have they? Yeah, crazy.
I don't think they're going to be honest. I think they're gonna just say we're gonna try these 3, but they don't have a 5. It sounds like they might really try to have Zion be their full-time 5, which I don't know how to feel about that, considering he already has problems with his overall injuries. Yeah. I have no idea where to rank them as a team. I really don't.
They really don't have a 5. They lost balance.
They drafted one.
I mean, they drafted one, but it's like they don't have like an established like 5-man who's like been there like 6 years, 7 years. Like it's more so just trying things out.
I can't believe I didn't realize that. Who did they draft? I'm actually pulling up the roster.
Was it
I forgot his name, Yves Missy or something?
Yeah, I was like, was it Yves Missy? I think that's his name.
Huh. But yeah, as was right, that is another swing team. They got DeJounte, so they're obviously looking to make a push. So
yeah, I don't know. I think I would just say the Pelicans, Kings. I don't believe in the Clippers, so I'll say Suns. Pelicans, Kings, and Suns.
Yeah, I think the Suns will be solid this year. First round exit, if not second, but it'll be solid.
I mean, I feel pretty confident that we're going, unless somebody gets hurt, knock on wood, we'll be in the top 10.
And see, this is perfect.
Who would you say?
Me?
Yeah, you. Yeah.
Okay, me. I think the Clippers are definitely a team that is important. I feel like a lot of people are counting them out because Paul George is gone, but the role players that they lost to get Harden, they kind of replaced. Harden did resign. I think now the James Harden and Kawhi lineups are things people really slept on. Harden and Kawhi together had a ton of value. And to be fair, Kawhi was healthy for the majority of the regular season. He just got hurt towards the end, which means he couldn't make the playoffs. I think with Paul George gone, I think Harden's game gets to expand more than it could last year. And Harden was actually very good for them last year. So you get that version with Kawhi Leonard and just a whole bunch of wings. They have a chance. I don't think I'm high on them per se, but I wouldn't be surprised if they shock people.
I'll say, go ahead.
Oh yeah. I think the Pelicans are the other big team. I think Will is 100% on with that, because if they keep Ingram and they keep DeJounte, they have a lot to figure out, but they still have Herb Jones. They still have another leap from probably Trey Murphy on the way as well. Like that can be like a very serious team, or they could trade some guys mid-season and now it's a completely different team, right? I think they're like a wild card to me. And what other team? The Kings too. I agree with you, Brad. The spacing I don't like, but I love it for the Kings because they needed to have another guy who could create stuff when their DHOs weren't going. And I think DeRozan slots perfectly into that role. Also, seeing how fast the Bulls played, I think DeRozan can translate to that fast-paced style as well. And more importantly, you're putting him where he can actually draw contact and get to the free throw line more, which just helps their overall offensive possessions more. So they're a wild card team. Their defense is not great. It's not, but they're a team that can get into multiple types of shootout games. And last year they blew so many leads in part because they didn't have another guy who could close. And if there's one thing DeMar did last year, he shows you he can close out games. So I think those are my teams.
I would just go say, as a Harden's favorite player of all time, that Clippers team is going nowhere this year, man.
I'm not mad at you for saying that.
Yeah, you got to rely on Kawhi Leonard to be healthy and James Harden. I think he's going to be 35 this year to be your second option. It's not happening. Yeah, it's not happening. It's over.
Listen, I'm very happy we'll say that because my last question is concerning the team. A lot of people like slept on this. I didn't. Okay. Third Eye Gifted is in the building. Conspiracy Gifted is in the building. When I saw the report that said the Houston Rockets are interested in Kevin Durant, a lot of people laughed at it. A lot of people didn't care about shit. But if there's one thing we know, the connections between KD and Texas as a whole is a thing. But more importantly, the Harden piece is so big because I kept saying Harden signed a 1-for-1 deal. Right now, you did not offer Şengün a max contract. In my opinion, in terms of a asset, Şengün has the most value. If things don't work out with the Rockets the way they want to this year, is it that surprising to think that you could have Harden and KD? Harden being the piece that convinces KD to come back to Houston and Harden comes back as well. How does that make y'all feel as Rockets fans? Again, it's a big conspiracy. A lot of things have to fall in place for that to be true. But it's something I'm keeping my eyes on for sure. Because the Suns team is kind of like in flux. Like Bradley Beal is making too much money. They can't really like drastically get better. Obviously, KD is getting older. So is James Harden. I'm just eyeing it there. I'm eyeing it.
Yeah. So if the Rockets are going for James Harden, I really think something went wrong. So something's terribly wrong. Something's going on with him in time. Something's going on with Reed Shepherd. So something's going wrong. I think the goal for them is to get Fred out of there and to insert one of them young guys, as we discussed earlier. But the Kevin Durant thing, I wouldn't even look at KD. I'm looking more at Devin Booker down the line. You know, the Rockets got those Suns picks because they're in cap hell. They're in that second apron. That's not going to change. That owner is hell bent on making that team work out. And it's a team that really has no. I mean, I don't see them having a championship upside. And when that implodes eventually, those picks are going to have extreme value. So that's more down the line. That's more like Devin Booker-ish angle. So that's where I'm kind of looking with those Suns picks. Not necessarily Kevin Durant. I think if they do move for KD, it's kind of too early. Just because, I mean, the Rockets haven't made the playoffs yet. It takes experience. You have to get to the playoffs first, learn how to win, and then, you know, make some steps. You know, KD's 36, 37 already. You know, the timeline is kind of moving. And as we've seen with Kevin, you know, he's trying to win. He's shown a tendency to team hop a little bit, and that's not, you know, the stability that I would want the Rockets to give up their picks or some of the young guys necessarily for. So Devin Booker falls more in line with that. But what would you say, Will?
I'd hate it if we traded for KD. That would, I would not like that at all. He's just too old. I think he's 36. Going to be 37 pretty soon. It just, the timeline don't match up. How much we're going to have to pay to get him, and then it's probably like a season and a half maybe. I'd much rather go for like a Devin Booker, younger. Fits the timeline a bit better. I think he can kind of. If Jalen Green doesn't pan out, I think Devin Booker can kind of be the version that we needed Jalen to be in order to take that next step. So I like that a lot more. Anybody who's like 30, if you in your 30s, I'm probably not trading for you at this point in time. Just because we're so far away. Like we're probably a year. We're probably going to use this year to like get to like arrive on the scene. And I think the season after this one is when it's like, okay, they can make some noise in the West. So like we're probably was at 2 seasons away from like making some real noise in the West. And so like you traded for somebody who's 33, 34, 35. By the time you're ready to like actually do something with it, they're going to be like on their way out the NBA. So I don't want, like I said, Devin Booker, I think he's 27 right now. I could work out with Devin Booker.
Yeah. I just want to say, I'm not saying they should do it.
Yeah.
I just saw a lot of people laugh seeing that the Rockets were interested. And I'm like, listen, if there's one thing I know about Tillman Fertitta, he is tired of this losing shit. He like, and listen, for better or for worse, if he thinks he can get Kevin Durant, I can understand why he would feel that way. And the only reason why I mentioned Harden is KD never goes to a team alone. He always brings someone with him. So that is out there. But yeah, overall, I'm excited for this Rockets season. I can't wait to see how the team develops. Obviously, the West is going to be a dogfight regardless of who the teams are. So just seeing these answers get posed to these questions should be fun to watch. Overall, if you guys had to put a seed on where you think you're going to be around for next year, just like we did last year, by the way, where do you think the 2025 Rockets are going to rank?
Man, if everything goes right, man, that team has a top. If everything goes right, that team has like a top 5 ceiling. I'm not gonna lie. But
okay,
we'll see how Jalen plays. But I think they'll be around a 7-ish, 8-ish, in my personal opinion. I'm high on this upcoming team.
Okay.
For reasons I mentioned in this podcast, I won't keep beating the dead horse. But what would you say, Will?
7, 8. Yeah, that's probably where I'd put it as well. Just because of how deep the West is.
Yeah, it's gonna be tougher again. Memphis is coming back. They're gonna be hella solid. And we didn't even mention them. That's a swing team too.
I think it'll be better than. That's why I didn't mention them, because I think they'll for sure be better than us.
Yeah.
Okay.
but yeah, 7-8. You know, we'll see. I really like this Rockets team. I think I've been telling my boys they gonna win 50. I'm getting laughed at, but I'll stand on it. I think they get it.
Well, happy to get that. Me personally, I will keep my opinion to myself because I don't know. I still have a lot of film for these teams that I want to officially review before having my top 10. But I do think the Rockets are a team that, again, if you swing to be in that range, it's not surprising because of the defense. The defense is the most like sexy thing about the Rockets I'm looking at, because if the offense just gets better to where it's not 20th and you're like maybe 18th or maybe even 15th, right? Like, you know, if you're in that range with the defense, having Tari Eason back for a full season, he moves me, especially in lineups with athleticism, especially with what we saw Amin Thompson do. So there is an avenue for this Rockets team to be there. That's not something that I will laugh at, but I'll definitely make sure to keep tabs on it. Overall, people, if you made it to the end, appreciate you. Go tap in to the Brad and Will podcast. They just had shit going on a couple weeks ago, right?
I wish.
Yeah.
What was that? That was last offseason one?
Yeah.
That was probably July last year.
Okay, so I saw the clips back. Yeah, but
You good.
yeah, go tap in there for sure. Great dudes. Will stays trolling on Twitter a lot, but he stands by his team. I love that, people that stand by their team through thick and thin. It'll be fun. So go tap in over there. The podcast is available on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. If you want to see the video version of our conversation, it's on YouTube at Gifted Hoops. And yeah, that's all. We'll see what happens with this Rockets team next year. Have a good one, people.